Okay, the record is on. Hello, this is Cristina Dragomir from Constanta Maritime University. I'm happy to meet you all from the academia, from the industry, transport industry, and from international organizations that deal with transport and labor. We have today among us Ms. Despina Paniotis, who is the president of the WISTA. WISTA is a very special organization which I'm part of, and she will have opening word. WISTA is one of the organizers of this event. Please, Despina, tell us some words. Thank you.
Well, good morning to everyone. And first of all, I hope that everyone is well and safe. Thank you, Cristina. Thank you, Michaela. Thank you, WISTA Romania and the Maritime University of Constanta and everyone involved with today's conference for inviting me today to join you in what promises to be a very interesting online conference. Michaela knows as well, it has been my wish to visit you this year and meet you all in person. And I'm very happy to get the chance to be with you even online. Within the space of just 1 month, maybe 2, many countries locked their doors. They shut down airports, forced group meetings to be canceled. We have this battle to flatten the curve and to ensure that COVID-19 does not, well, it has spread so quickly and our national health systems became overwhelmed. So now we are trying to overcome this and go back to some kind of normalcy in our lives. Although everyone's discussing that this normalcy will definitely be different from what we have known. I'm looking forward to hearing everyone's views today, but I also wanted to add one spin, and I don't know if it will be addressed today. About 4 years ago, in shipping, virtual reality, remote monitoring, artificial intelligence, and blockchain started to become more common words for us in shipping. And there were headlines and films about the distancing that this would create, the kind of society we would forge for ourselves. And our response to the COVID-19 pandemic has become a societal testbed for these solutions. Today, our ability to bring the ship into the total supply chain and liaise remotely across the whole chain is going to be a key part in the recovery of global trade. Ship managers and technology firms, leading ship owners and young startups that have seen some gaps in operational efficiencies have spent years developing digital capabilities, and now we find some of them being tested in earnest. Now, we can do this. We can do it again and again. People say that we cannot understand what we're able to do until we're forced to exceed our comfort zone. And this applies to industry as well. We may be comfortable with how things are, but we are now showing that we can rely on information technology and communication when we really need to. And I want to connect this, and how is this fair? I want to connect this with the topic today and refer to ship's crews briefly. Communication these days has been so important for the mental health and well-being of seafarers, to be able to connect to their families and loved ones while they cannot come ashore. In general, there has been a swell of reassuring voices for countries to treat seafarers as critical workers and allow officers and crews to join and leave ships. It's great that seafarers have this support, but some crews will need relieving after 9 or so months voyages. Mental health is a big issue now within crew welfare. We need to continue to treat ship's crews well. We need to make sure they are offered access to communication and to the level of engagement we need to keep them interested in their roles. We also need to treat them to be digitally savvy. We can't ignore ship's crews. After all, they are entrusted to look after billions of dollars of assets and just as much cargo. We need them to be in the right state of mind to do the job, not just when the going is easy, but when the going gets tough. So the choice is ours, and the level of communication and access to help train, support, and nurture crews do their job is a very, very important one. We have a duty as an industry to look at the whole picture, and that picture includes making sure we have a view of the future, all possible futures, including those potential outcomes if we do not do the right things at the right time. I will close now because I know Michaela and I are sharing the opening part of the conference, and I very much look forward to hearing her as well, and also listening to all of you for the rest of this conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Despina. Very insightful thoughts you said to us. Mihaela, please, before you are having the opening remarks, I want to welcome our rector, Mr. Panaid Cornel. Hello, Mr. Panaid. Can you see us and hear us well? Mr. Panaid? Well, probably the connection is low. Okay. Please, Mihaela, say in brief a few words.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mihaela Scrieciu, and I'm the president of WISTA Romania. Not coincidentally, this conference with the title Fair Transport and Gender takes place during this period, 8th of May being the day of equal opportunities between women and men. Therefore, I consider that one of the WISTA's goals is to implement the equality of chances between women and men, starting by a campaign in high schools and in colleges, where we promote maritime jobs and women have to have full access, jobs in which till now men are the majority. We need to make ourselves understood at all levels, promoting that the only way to get a job in the maritime field is the competency and fair treatment. But in order for a woman to be able to start a career at sea, we need to find a lot of open-minded persons who will give to the women the chance to have a start. I'm confident that in 10, maybe 20 years, there will be no more barriers between men and women, and we'll have on board of the vessels and in maritime field, more than 50% there will be women. At the end, I want to tell you that this is our first event, and the second one will be on 3rd of September 2020 with the title Smart Transport Summit. And thank you for being here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mihaela. Okay. Now let's just start the research presentation. Please, Christy, can you use the share button, the green share button, to see your presentation?
Hello, everybody. I think you can hear me now. You can see my presentation right now.
Yes, if you can speak a bit more louder, please.
Okay. So now you can hear me, yeah? Everything
Great.
is okay? So I will start my presentation. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to your conference. And as Despina told you before, the evolution and perspective of the trade is very important to everyone. As women on board, we will be affected by the evolution and perspective of the trade. So I want to thank you to the author of the graphs that I will be presenting. Romeo Pojneacu is the author of the graphics. So he decided to take 3 hypotheses and to put them on paper. It's a very, very interesting solution. So let's see. I will present you a few graphics and I'll let the as is. So this was the annual evolution of the economy between 2000 and 2050. So these graphs are using data existent from world economy and economies. So you can see here few graphics related to world economy, China economy, and how they go up and down. So here you can see the 2008-2009 crisis. This is the annual evolution of the merchandise trade. Also, this is related and has the same graphic as the one before. And you can see also that in 2009, the crisis affected this graph and the annual evolution was affected. This is how China volumes worked and how China merchandise trade between 2007-2008 period was affected. In 2009, we have a minus almost 50%. All these data are related to transport, and we will show you. I will show you right now how. The volume of the merchandise needs to go from China to all over the world, and we need to transport all this merchandise by ship, by boat, by train, by any transport means. We decided to show three hypotheses. One is a soft hypothesis, hypothesis one. One is the acceptable hypothesis, and one is the catastrophic hypothesis. So we have the hypothesis one. This is the acceptable one. We are here in 2020, and this is our expectation in the hypothesis one for the evolution of the trade and the evolution of the seaborne transport. We have also the graphic between 2009 and 2020. This is the real data. But from 2020, 2021, this is just a perspective from the hypothesis one. This is the hypothesis two. And we designed this graph using real data of world economy between 2009 and 2020. And this is an acceptable perspective. This is the third hypothesis, which is the worst one, is the catastrophic one, which will lead the world transport into a very, very dark period. I hope it will not happen, but we still don't know how the COVID crisis will affect us. So we present here in this paper three hypotheses. One is the soft hypothesis. The second one was the acceptable hypothesis, and the third was the catastrophic hypothesis. So I hope all these hypotheses will be useful somehow to test our way of dealing with things in perspective. And in few years, I think we can go back and to put our finger on the hypothesis which was the most was the real one, because at this time no one knows what will come. I want to thank you, Cristina Dragomir, for inviting me, and I want to thank to all participants and to wish you a very, very, very nice conference today.
Okay, thank you very much
for inviting us, and have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Christy, please stay 1 minute more if there are any questions between the attendees for Christy Scurtu presentation. You can just ask him. Okay.
So thank you very much again, and have a nice day.
Okay, you too. Now I will continue with the next presentation. It is a study made by myself and a colleague from Turkey. Okay. And this study will introduce us in the core of this event. Is fair transport a phenomenon or a new social movement? This is the context where this phenomenon called social movement of fair trade has appeared. You can see in the center of this image the fourth industrial revolution. Despina has mentioned some things related to the high level of digitalization context. And we also have a lot of conflicts between technology advancements and the willingness of people to react and to adapt to such changement. Related to the movement of Fair Transport Europe, there have been several campaigns developed by European Transport Workers Federation, International Transport Workers Federations, but also by other unions, local unions and regional unions. Related to the largest campaign of fair transport in Europe, the European Transport Workers Federation, who is headquartered in Brussels, and which is the largest transport workers union pan-European, has developed several actions and is encouraging to make new actions also. A special focus on this campaign of Fair Transport Europe is on social dumping. And you can see in my slide, the definition for social dumping is a practice of employers to use cheaper labor than is usually available on site. In this table, you can see only a small part of all the activities that are encountered in this campaign. For example, starting with February 2018, there was the union support for a case that was won by a driver who was paid less than was the minimum wage in Germany. Following in February, April, May, June, you can see all types of activities. For example, in 2 years ago, on 17 May 2018, there was the Fair Shipping campaign for creation of a common European maritime space without social dumping. Based on the research that I have done with my colleague Nihan Shembursa from Ordu Turkey University, we have coined the term of fair transport companies, and we have concluded that a fair transport company, according to the effects of and on the markets, a fair transport company should implement social policies, including gender equality policy. We have a major issue here, especially in the maritime sector. Also, a fair transport company is the one that has implemented safety and security policies. And we are not referring here only to the technical safety, but also to the safety of workers and the safety of all involved parties, all stakeholders. Also, environmental policies and quality management policies. Therefore, a fair transport company should do its best in order to deliver high quality service of transport. What I would like to present next, don't worry, it's too much text on this slide. I will resume in some words. So in 2019, me and my colleague Nihan, we did this study based on a questionnaire for 71 respondents from the maritime environment and mostly from academia. The respondents were aged from 21 to 44 years, and we asked them several questions in order to identify their perspectives as consumers. And further, we wanted to understand whether the concept of fair transport company would have certain implications on the market. And we have asked first important question of the study, whether a respondent as a consumer would have to choose between products that were transported by fair transport companies, and we just said the definition in the previous slide, or if would have to choose from a similar product that would have been transported by an unfair transport company, therefore a company that had not implemented all those 4 policies. Would the consumer choose to boycott or not, like to refuse buying or not, the product that was transported by a non-fair transport company? And the results were the following. The largest group of respondents, as you can see here, near half of the total number of the respondents replied that yes, they would make that choice to buy products that were transported by fair transport companies compared to similar products transported by unfair companies. And 31% were not sure, and 15% replied they would not boycott. Another question was related to the communication behavior, whether those persons that would refuse buying products transported by unfair companies would communicate their choice to their family, friends, colleagues, or peers. The results show that the majority, 57%, so a bit more than a half of respondents, yes, would communicate their choice. And finally, another interesting statistics related to propagation phenomenon of boycotting and communicating this attitude was concluded by the question: the respondents would invite other or would suggest to other persons to boycott and to join them in their movement. And again, a bit more than half of the respondents replied yes, they would invite. 28% were undecided, and 80% replied no. In conclusion, from our point of view, a fair transport company is a company that did some work, did some effort in order to improve their business by implementing policies, not necessarily certified implementation, but some proof should be there in order to make the community understand they did implemented the policies, social policies, and including gender equality policy, the safety security policy, environmental and quality management of the transport services. And secondly, the results of our study, which is, by the way, a pilot study, has only 71 respondents, but we want to make it larger. The results indicate that the largest share of respondents is open to manifest and to communicate, and further to invite others to boycott products that were not transported by fair transport companies. Okay, this was my presentation. If you have some brief questions, you can ask me now, or we can have a distinct session of questions and answers after all presentation. Meanwhile, while waiting for your questions, if any, we are asking Mr. Ovidiu Jurc, former senior specialist in workers' activities from the ILO to say some words. He will discuss about a very interesting fact, the ILO's decent work agenda. Okay, Mr. Ovidiu, take the floor, please.
Yeah, I have a question, and my question is very simple. In this kind of agitation, is there any way the various regulatory agencies in various countries are being invited to join this kind of workshop? Because you know they are the ones that make the policies, and if it's part of their policy statement, I think employers and players in the transport industry will take them more seriously than just advocating. And you know what? One thing with business is anybody that is in business wants to make maximum profit. So I think various regulatory agencies should be part of this movement. Is there any move towards that direction? That's my question.
Okay, so from our research so far, we have identified only the non-governmental organizations like the unions, not so far any agencies.
I know why I'm asking this question is like the issue of gender. I know NIMASA, the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, we've started the movement since last year. We're encouraging the female youth to be interested in maritime transportation, and the training scholarship we have, we actually give the female gender a priority. Once any of them applies, once the person is qualified, we engage that person automatically above the male counterparts. We are trying to do a balancing. I don't know. And if something like that, I know a lot of agencies, if you put them in the know, some of them will be interested. Thank you.
Yes, thank you also for your comment. It's very interesting indeed to expand our research and to investigate more whether these agencies will have some impact and will support somehow this social movement of fair transport. Okay,
definitely it will. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Ovidiu Jurca, we are listening to you.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Again, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
First of all, I will stress on the tripartite dimension of any undertaking related to this topic. When you are investigating some direction, some phenomenon, namely in this very, very important transport sector, you have to keep in your mind this tripartite dimension, because in this business there are three actors: the social partners, governments, employers, and workers, represented by ministers, by employers' organizations, by trade unions. So in this context, I think my few words about ILO decent work agenda will have an increased relevance. First of all, what is decent work? I will not make a presentation, few words only about it. It is a concept, but more than a concept, it is a philosophy. Philosophy of approaching the huge challenges of our times. ILO has dedicated departments, a lot of specialists in different directions, approaching different and important and sensitive topics, like occupational health at work, non-discrimination, gender equality, the rule of law, to mention only a few directions. But let's come back to decent work agenda. You know, probably it was adopted a declaration of an ILO conference some 6 or 7 years ago. And from that moment, the ILO and its constituents tried to share the core values of the decent work agenda, and with other important stakeholders, and which is the major topic of this decent work agenda is decent wages, because work without a good wage, it's a nonsense. It's exploitation, slavery, or anything else you would like to name. Decent wages, it's including a good balance between the quantity and the quality of the work. And based on this balance, we are closing to the non-discrimination. It is a very important topic on the ILO agenda, generally speaking, and on this decent work ILO agenda. Non-discrimination, any kind of discrimination. And a very important topic within this concept is gender discrimination and violence at work, very much related. I will mention another direction, occupation and health at work. Here in the transport sector, these values are more than relevant, because for seafarers, for truckers, for any other participants in the process of transport, it is very important to enjoy fair and good occupation and health conditions. Here we are including also security, and for seafarers it is more than relevant. Let's mention only the Somali coasts and other similar areas where the danger of pirates is very relevant. It is important from the ILO point of view to have social protection for workers, enforced by national, European, and international legislation, by the conventions, by the collective agreements established at every level, national, sectoral, or company level. And this social protection is very much related to the establishment and a good practice of social dialogue and collective bargaining. To be coherent with my promise not to speak more than 10 minutes, I'm going to reach the final of my intervention. I would like to mention here a very important value. It is not mentioned in this declaration of the ILO. It is not mentioned in any document adopted by the ILO, but is a very important tool for sharing the values of these documents, conventions, and recommendations adopted by the ILO, and making, by their implementation, examples of good practice. And here I'm speaking about the conscience of right. In your sector, in maritime sector, the problem is more than relevant, because although ITF is very important and probably the only guardian of workers' interests, Also, you have a large category of participants who are not aware about their rights. And when I mentioned conscience of right, I'm not speaking about a science we are learning in the Faculty of Law. No. It is about a bunch of, or a package of documents or regulations able to protect us as workers. And if the trade unions and employers' organizations are making a joint policy for sharing these values with the workers, with other peers, with the other colleagues, it is important because an aware person makes two. It's something like a French saying. And to conclude, I will give you a short example about the relevance of this topic I've mentioned, conscience of right. It was a company in Ukraine, an air carrier. The name is not important. It was. At one moment, the management of the company decided to reorganize, and it could have a dramatic impact on the existence of the 226, 28 employees. But this intention of the management was not transparent. Employees asked the management some information. They have been refused. In a given moment, 125 employees decided to establish a trade union organization. After making the legal steps, they announced the management about the existence of this legal trade union organization and asked them to fulfill their obligation on information and consultation. There are rules established by EU regulations and ILO conventions. The reaction of the management, they fired all members of a trade union organization. The local courts denied any right of workers to get a fair trail and to get justice. And being aware, they asked the support of European Trade Union Confederation. And they, from Brussels, advised them to open individual cases to the European Court of Human Rights, 125. With the assistance, of course, of European Trade Union Confederation, which is in similar cases accepted by the European Court of Human Rights as a third-party intervenient, workers won. The court issued a decision mandatory for the Ukrainian authorities and for that company to reinstall the workers, to pay them difference of wages and damages amounting to more than 50,000 euro for the trade union organization. It is a good example about what it means, the conscience of right and solidarity. You have mentioned, Christina, and Despina also, the meaning of solidarity. And I will conclude my intervention saying that the biggest agency within the United Nations organization, I'm talking about ILO, it is the only tripartite-based organization around the world. Do not forget, ILO and ITUC, ETUC, European Trade Union Institute, and your own institution of education are there to support. Ask them. It is for free. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I wish you a successful conference and a nice day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jurka. Very interesting story. The power of example is really strong and tough. Okay, Hamani, we are waiting for your slide, please. If you can share it. Hamani Amadou is an International Transport Workers Federation inspector from Germany, and he will discuss about ITF flags of convenience. It's another campaign developed by the ITF. Hamani, we cannot hear you. Okay.
Yes.
Now, okay, now we can hear you. Great.
So, good day to everybody.
Hello.
Hello. My name is Hamani Amadou, and like you said, I am working for the International Transport Workers Federation, headquartered in London, as an ITF inspector. I think we cannot speak about fair transport without speaking about the rights of the workers and the maritime and shipping world as a globalized world. The ITF is a global union where you have all transport workers unions affiliated. We have in more than around 700 unions affiliated. So to make sure workers in transport sector are well protected and well assisted, we have created the unions has come together since 1869 to create the ITF. And the ITF has a very important campaign called FOC campaign, which I'm going to present you. I don't know why it is not the first slide. Okay, let's go to the first slide. Yeah. So
we can't see the slide. We can't see the slide.
You can see the slide?
Yes. Our video is stopped.
Christina? Can you do something?
Please, yes, please try to leave the event and join again on the same link.
Okay, I'll do that right away.
Shall I wait or I can continue?
I don't know. I don't want to sound selfish. You can continue. I'll catch up.
Anyway, you will have the slides I hope our speakers will share the slides after the event.
All right, good. Then I will continue on the flag of convenience campaign. This flag of convenience campaign is a very old campaign which was launched in 1948 during the Oslo Congress in Norway, and the campaign is to go against the flag of convenience. To know what is a flag of convenience, because I think most of the people will ask themselves, what is a flag of convenience? A flag of convenience is very simply defined. For example, if a ship owner, a Spanish ship owner, decided to register his ship, his vessel in another country, for example, let's say Dominican Republic or Panama or Liberia, this ship can be or would be considered as sailing under a flag of convenience. The ITF has some criteria to define a register or a flag as a flag of convenience. The flag of convenience campaign first aim is to eliminate this flag, the system. But before we reach that objective, we need to protect the right of the seafarers working actually on board those ships or those vessels. We need to make sure those FOC register recognize the international minimum standards. We need also to strengthen all the unions so that every seafarer, wherever they are assisted and well protected. To achieve those goals, the ITF has a network of so-called ITF inspectors. ITF inspectors go on board, inspect the vessel, and if any kind of problems are found, try to help the seafarer by negotiating and with the ship owners. We have 141 inspectors and contacts worldwide in more than 50 countries, more than 100 ports, and within this inspector network, you have so-called ITF coordinators and assistant coordinators, and we have a very significant amount of women within the inspectorate. The inspectors, like I said, are in more than 50 countries, as you can see, everywhere in the main, where in the countries with a main port, you will find an ITF inspector or an ITF contact. I will give you a short overview of what we have achieved in the last 2 years, because like I said, the ITF inspectors inspect vessels. For example, last year, we have inspected more than 10,000 vessels. And during these inspections, we have found many problems like unpaid wages, which we have claimed back more than 40 million unpaid wages claimed back last year during these 10,000 inspections. The ATF FOC campaign is, like I said, the first aim is to eliminate the FOC system. But before we came to that, we are trying to make sure the working and living conditions of the seafarers working on those ships, on those FOC ships, are better. That's why we signed different kind of collective bargaining agreements, CBAs, with the ship owners. We have, like for example, the IBF, we have the so-called TCC, and many other CBAs. So here you can see on this slide that we have many more vessels which are uncovered, and we have inspected those vessels, and the most unpaid wages are collected back for the seafarers from those vessels without any ITF agreement. I would like to sum up, and that's why I would like to present you a short video about the ITF in global, so that you will have an idea, a short idea about the ITF, because I am not sure if everybody is aware about what is the ITF and what we do. That's why I have this video. It is just about 5 minutes. I will try to bring it. I don't know if it will work. Christina, is there any way you can help here?
I'm not very sure. Let me maybe check, and we can see it after the debate. What do you think?
If we can see it now, it's better, so that the people will not come back and ask the same question which could be answered in the video, you know. That's why. But if it is not possible, then we can continue, so that we will not lose time. I have to thank you in this situation. Thank you very much for your attention and for the invitation to this event. And I will be very glad to answer any question. And I'm very, very happy to have my colleague from Romania in the same event. And together we will try to give you more information about the ITF Inspectorate, and the Seafarers Life. Thank you very much.
We also thank you, Hamani. Very interesting presentation, and we will try to look over the video by the end of the meeting. We are inviting now Miss Codruța Amare from Babeș-Bolyai University. She has a presentation on women participation in shipping. And after that, we will have another presentation of Sanjam Gupta, some statistics about the Indian maritime industry. So, Hamani, I think you should end the share.
Okay. By clicking on the share, right?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. Stop.
Okay, great, thank you. Codruța, wait a second, we can't hear you. Now, I think now we can hear you.
Okay.
Welcome. Okay.
Good morning. I guess my internet connection is not that good. Maybe that's where the problems come from. Good morning to everyone. Thank you, Christina, for inviting me. I'm an associate professor at the Babeș-Bolyai University in Cluj-Napoca, Romania, the second largest city in Romania. And as Despina mentioned, AI and ITC and all the stuff related to it, actually Cluj-Napoca is one of the largest ITC hubs in the central eastern part of Europe. Together with Christina, I have worked in the project, the international project that she managed, not far away from this moment, the JECAMET project. And there we've studied a lot about women participation in shipping. For today, due to the limited time available, I have chosen to present you a pilot study that we've conducted related to women participation in shipping. The aim was to see the gender awareness on board, and we actually evaluated this on several groups of respondents. For today, I have chosen to present you the pilot survey on the shipping companies. Being a pilot survey means that we have a small sample. In this case was a small sample of 28 international shipping companies, their representatives, of course. We have applied a survey through the Google Forms platform, and the analyses were conducted in a statistical software called SPSS24. Is one of the most used statistical analysis software in the world, IBM statistical package for social sciences. First of all, just a brief description of the sample. Most of the respondents were representing crewing, manning, and human resource companies, almost 50% of the sample, then ship management companies, and then others, owners and shipping companies. In terms of headquarters, almost 30% of the representatives came from the Philippines, then around 18% from Romania, and with a very high difference, Singapore and Norway. The rest of the shares were neglectable in the sense that were around 3–4%. So that's why I didn't present them here. Among the questions that were addressed in the questionnaire, or from them, I've selected what we considered some of the most important related to women's participation in shipping and their life as seafarers. First of all, we asked about the necessity of involvement of actors on the maritime market to increase women's participation. And we thought about quite a high number, 11 such actors, and we've tried to see how shipping companies' representatives perceive the involvement of these actors in terms of women's participation in shipping. The most important actor was considered to be the employer, actions developed by employers of seafarers. Almost 65% of the respondents considered that the involvement of this type of actors is very necessary in order to increase women's participation. Then around 57% considered that also the employees could interfere in this process, while the lowest share of the very necessary answers was obtained for researchers. So actually, the researcher in this field is considered to have the least impact possible. And we have concluded that this comes from the lack of authority in the field. This comes from the fact that the researcher is able to assess the situation, is able to point out the issues, the problems, or the positive aspects, but does not have the power of decision. So actually, through this question, we were able to see how the power of decision is perceived, and actually, based on the responses, we are also able to rank the actors exactly based on this, the power of decision in the field. Due to the fact that we had these two opposite places for the employers and for the researchers, we have also plotted the answers in order to better visualize them. So you see the very necessary group for the employers and a smaller amount for the researchers. In the following, we have chosen to present the gender requirements to be included in the MLC. And you can see that the highest shares are for company policies on gender equality, which should be implemented and communicated by the employers of seafarers. So actually, through the MLC, the companies should be required to implement gender policies and to properly communicate their gender policies to their employees. On the second place, there are two options: gender customized work protection equipments that should be available on board vessel for seafarer women, and feminine hygiene products that should be available on board in special stores, on ships and in ports. A sensitive issue was the reason for and against hiring seafarer women. 4 is related to have broader talent pools, innovate and grow, because complementarity and diverse approach are better for problem solving. And some of them also see that hiring women would lead to positive changes in the behavior of the crew. In terms of reasons for not employing seafarer women, most of them are related to sexuality and sexual behavior, in the sense that the most important reason against it was that female seafarers can get involved in sexual affairs with the crew members, and this would affect the climate on board, even though not that clear stated, but most of the other reasons were actually related to this, because the other reasons were related to the fact that male crew would feel discomfortable in getting orders from women, or that jealousy, rumors, or conflicts may appear on board ships. Another important issue stated is that female seafarers wouldn't be able to accomplish some heavy physical tasks, and that actually in the end their work should be done by some male colleagues, and this again would lead to conflicts on board. This is what we've prepared for today. I speak with we because this is a work, as I already told you, conducted with Christina. We are now research partners in this field for a long time, and I hope that we will continue and have the same type of results in the future. Thank you very much again for inviting me to your conference.
Thank you very much, Codruța. Thank you for sharing interesting statistics. Sanjam Gupta will follow now with another very interesting presentation on the Indian maritime industry. Codruța, if you can stop the sharing, okay?
Yeah, I am now doing this. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Christina, for inviting me. Thank you, everybody, all the organizers. It's been a very interesting morning, and it's been a huge learning for me listening from all of you. I wanted to share details of the survey that was conducted by us in India as part of my Sandwich Gender Award in 2019. Just a little background about myself before we start. I'm the daughter of a seafarer. My father was a captain sailing, and he left sea very young to start his own shipping company. So I'm very passionate about everything maritime. Been working in the maritime industry in our family business since the year 2001. And I realized that there were huge gaps in gender equality and that we really needed to do something about it. So I think the survey was a starting point in getting data to address these issues, because otherwise in the absence of data, we're just talking in the air. We really have nothing to fall back upon. So this is a baseline survey that we conducted. It was not a census. Unfortunately, the funding for the award did not permit us to do a census, because in a huge country like India, that would be a mammoth task. But I do believe it's a good starting point, and I'm hoping that you would also find some of these statistics interesting. The survey, it covered 205 companies. That was the employer survey. So there were 3 surveys in all, where we covered 205 employers. 781 women on shore gave their perspective on what they felt was important, and 112 women seafarers, they gave their perspective. The survey was conducted to substantiate that women across the industry face biases, and we got data from all the relevant stakeholders in all the verticals of the maritime industry. So starting from that, the employers survey showed us that across all the 205 companies, that was in all verticals of maritime, they had on an average of around 20% women employed in the companies, and the highest went to 25%. On the board of directors, we found that there was a 17% representation of women, but we feel that this would not be very accurate, because as per the Government of India policy, the companies, every public limited company needs to have 1 woman as a board of director, and a lot of companies that are family owned get their way around this by having women who are in the family but not actively participating on the boards. Coming to the C-suite positions, there were only 5% of women who were CEOs, as compared to 95% of their male counterparts. This again is not very surprising. This was very expected, and I think that 5% was also a huge number, because when you think of women in top positions in heading shipping companies in India, there are very few women who are actually there. What was interesting is that we asked companies how many of them had a gender equality policy in place. And while 95% of them said that we have a policy in place, but when we asked them a few specific questions, as in, how many people have on-site childcare, defined share of female in top management, defined share of women in recruitment. It was 0. The answer to that was 0, which was clearly, so either the questions they responded to, either they did not have a policy in place, but they wanted to look good. The other thing is that they had a policy, but were not doing really nothing about it. So I think that itself was a stark comparison. And if you see that only 1 to 5% of them actually had some sort of facility like a room for wellness or flexible working hours for women or some special allowances, 5 to 15% had training and mentorship and leading programs specifically aimed at women, provided some sort of food and transportation assistance, health and insurance policy, and the maximum was 15 to 25% who provided maternity benefits. Here I'd like to state a case of the Port of Singapore, the PSA, who has a terminal, who's operating a terminal at Nhava Sheva in Mumbai. It's a very interesting case that when they started operations at BMCT, there was a lot of agitation of the local labor who wanted them to hire more people from the village located right next to them. And while PSA dealt with it in a very mature manner, they actually hired 6 female crane operators. So it was a win-win situation. Not only did they appease the local villagers by hiring locals, but they went one step further in hiring women as female crane operators. These women, suddenly their position in society became elevated. They became primary breadwinners. One of them I remember meeting, she was a mother of a 6-month-old baby, and she was extremely grateful for the opportunity. And they are the only female crane operators operating in Nhava Sheva and doing a fantastic job to such a level that when they started, when after a year, I think, their productivity was higher than the male counterparts. And seeing that, actually, the male crane operators, they kind of felt that they must do better. And after that, the overall productivity for the port went higher. So I think definitely there's value in diversity. And that was a very encouraging statistic and one of my favorite stories, because I feel we don't want to shame people who are not hiring more women in difficult roles. And women now can take on blue and white collar jobs both. I don't think that it's fair to say that any job cannot be done by women. So I think this is a very important case study to cite, and more studies should be cited because instead of shaming people who are doing nothing about it, I think we need to actually state best practices and encourage more companies to do better. When we interviewed women, we asked them how difficult it was to get a job on board vessels and on shore. Of course, getting a job on board vessels is extremely difficult. A lot of companies here in India have a non-written policy that say they don't hire women. So it's easy for us to tackle companies that say, who openly say that we don't hire women, because then the authorities, the Director General of Shipping, can actually take them to task. But the challenging part is when companies actually don't state it implicitly, but it's an understated thing. They take applications from women, but they don't process them. These are some of the hurdles that women actually said, which they felt was hindering their progress. 55% thought that it was really difficult. They had a difficult time even getting a job. They felt that when they were being interviewed in their selection, there were apparent remarks which went to their lack of skill set, their physical strength, and kind of the first question they would be asked was, are you single? Are you planning to get married? Would you leave your job? And if you are married, are you planning to have a child? And if they have a child, I think the main questions would be, how will you manage work-life balance? Then coming to the workplace, I think a lot of them didn't feel secure even on shore. There were no policies to really address harassment of all kinds, whether it's explicit or implicit sexual harassment. For going further, even retaining them, they felt that there were no policies that were kind of geared to be flexible towards them. They felt that they could do their jobs really well, even like right now. So I think with the COVID-19, everyone's working from home is flexible. it's really an important thing to point out now, that women, if people can work from anywhere. And I think it's a huge opportunity for women, because earlier, traditionally, women are expected to clock in so many hours in the office, if it's a minimum of 8 hours. And if she's seen leaving after those 8 hours, even despite she's done her work, it's kind of seen negatively. And it's the culture where people, in a lot of companies back here, where people sitting beyond the office designated hours are seen as hardworking. And women often get those remarks, oh, you're leaving already, it's 6 o'clock, and why are you leaving? And oh, you must have, you're taking advantage. But I think it just goes to show with the situation that women can work from anywhere, and as long as they're doing their work and completing their tasks, it shouldn't matter how many hours they are sitting physically in the office, or even just having to complete their tasks and then log out. Even in promotions of women, I think they felt that they were held back from their promotions as compared to their male counterparts, who were given quicker promotions, and they were constantly told that be patient, be patient. And I think that a lot of them felt that they were around 5 years behind in promotions as compared to their male counterparts. These were a few basic suggestions that women themselves gave as in feedback to the survey, which is very, very simple and I think easy to implement. It's not rocket science. What they're asking for is very simple and can be doable. They wanted that they should not be underestimated. The government should make necessary policy amendments. So we here in India have been lobbying for a mandatory course on gender sensitization at all maritime training institutions. Maternity benefits. Here I wanted to say that the government of India, particularly government jobs, they all are gender neutral. I think the private sector is lagging hugely behind when it comes to the government here. All government jobs here are gender neutral, and they have women have all the facilities, and there is no discrimination there. So I think the private sector really needs to catch up. They wanted improvement on safety and security standards, on-site childcare, which does not exist at all. Acceptance of women on board, creating of awareness of having women on board, no gender pay gaps, which is again a huge reality, that women are paid much less, around 30% less than their male counterparts. Gender diversity and inclusion policy, an independent regulatory body to look into sexual harassment. And whereas the government of India has stated that all companies need to have this, there have been cases where very senior women working in the industry also were sexually harassed, and the regulatory body is just for namesake, and actually they take no action, and it's kind of very skewed in favor of the men. They felt that informative sessions, sensitization sessions were necessary. And lastly, which is something I don't agree with, they said that they wanted a special quota for women, but I frankly believe that's not right, because then you're discriminatory in the other sense. And I believe that one has to be inclusive and have both genders on board. So this is just snapshots or highlights of the survey that we conducted in India. And I wanted to share that we are going to be commissioning our next survey, because as a business owner in these times of crisis, I realize how important profitability is. So our next survey now, which we will soon be doing, which has been commissioned by the Dutch consulate to Maritime CEO, is the best practices which would link productivity and profitability to diversity within organizations. So we're actually going to prove the business case for diversity, that yes, organizations that have more diversity are more productive and more profitable. So even if people don't want to have gender equality and fair practices for the sake of it, I think it's a great goal. But what if people don't think it's a great goal? I think if you're going to link it further to productivity and profitability, there is no reason why businesses, no more excuses that they will have anymore to say that they are not going to hire women. I think that's it for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sanjam. I do agree with you. I don't enjoy also the idea of quota. And I think the key word should be complementarity. Okay, we wait for Alexandra Bădiță, very insightful also presentation. She will discuss about whether coaching can make a difference in gender balance.
Good morning again, everyone, and thank you, Christina, for the introduction. So I will share my screen, but in the meantime, I would like to ask everyone who likes ice cream. You can either by show of hands or you can just type in the chat. I see a lot of hands up on the video, so thank you so much. Then it means that I am in the right virtual room. So if I ask you, just a second.
Alexandra, your
Yes?
question about ice cream is during pandemics or not? Because during pandemics,
All the
we
time.
eat everything.
All the time, yes.
Okay.
So let's pretend that we are going outside. We're not in a pandemic and we're going outside for ice cream. Which flavor would you choose? Do you choose chocolate or vanilla? And again, please, if you can type in the chat, you can make it easier and just type 1 for chocolate and 2 for vanilla. And I would love to hear your answers. And in the meantime, you might be wondering, what does ice cream have to do with coaching? Well, you know, as coaches, what we do is to bring the unconscious beliefs and limiting beliefs to the consciousness. We want to be aware of where it's coming from and what can we do to improve and to get better. And how can we get better answers and how can we get better results when we ask questions? Well, what we need to do is to ask better questions. If we want better results, we ask better questions. So this is one way to learn how to start making this shift. And I thought about how I can put this in a very simple process, in a very simple way of understanding how coaching and gender balance can come together in the sense of bringing more awareness and making a difference. And I thought of a process that can be very simple and simplified into 3 steps, 3 simple C's. And in this process, we're going to talk about 3 very simple concepts. And the first concept is going to be the concept of change. Now, I'm not talking about chocolate ice cream wanting to be vanilla ice cream or vanilla ice cream trying to change into chocolate ice cream. This is not what I'm talking about. Instead, it's about changing our mindset. It all starts with our mindset. This is where our beliefs come from. This is where our limiting beliefs start. And it was very interesting to hear the surveys and all the studies before from the previous speakers. And it's so interesting to see all the misconceptions and all these beliefs that come from a very, very long time ago about the role of gender and the role of men and women in society and also in the workplace. So I would like to ask you, if you remember, when was a time that you said to yourself, I can't do this, or I'm not good enough to do this? And you can just take this as something to think about, or you can also write in the chat if you'd like, because this is something that we all think about. Because we have this inner dialogue most of the times that is more demeaning than empowering. And in my work as a self-esteem coach and also as the director of the Global Women Club community of women entrepreneurs and women in business here in Romania, I speak with a lot of women. And what I hear all the time, no matter if it's women in business, entrepreneurs, employees, diplomats, women in all sorts of roles, they all have this in their mind. Am I good enough? Am I doing a good enough job? And this inner dialogue, we can change it, as you might guess, by asking better questions. How can we do that? Well, just like with any sort of change, we first must be aware. And awareness means that we learn to listen. We learn to pay attention to what is going on. And are we addressing our demeaning talk to ourselves? Or is it something that we encourage ourselves? How can we be more positive? How can we say, yes, I am going to go for this opportunity? What questions can you ask? What questions can you ask to yourself? And what questions can you ask to the people around you that can bring more awareness? And when it comes to paying attention, I always work with people through writing, journaling. These are really great tools for reflection. And in this way, we start to see where are the disbalances, what is happening, and where these beliefs come from, because they might come from our early childhood, they might come from generation and generation, they come from the environment, all these things that impact. And this is where the change of mindset needs to happen in order for change in gender balance to happen and to see this coming into play. So once again, how do we change the mindset? By asking better questions. In the second step, we are looking at choice. Why is that? Because when we change our mindset, when we change the way that we look at things and the way that we look at circumstances in terms of gender equality, we start choosing differently. We start to make better choices. And when we continuously choose differently, then we also see more change, right? So choice is actually how we understand that we own the power. We have the power to make different choices. We have the power to rewrite the story and the reality. When someone says it's not possible, or when someone says, well, this is the system, either if it's in recruitment, either if it's in the workplace, and someone just mentions that nothing can be done, how can you choose differently? By asking better questions. How can I support with finding a solution? Can we work towards looking at different other ways of solving this? All these curiosities are going to support change, because this is how we can own the power, regardless of our gender. If we are curious, if we ask better questions, we will lead to different choices and change. And most importantly, chocolate doesn't try to pretend to be vanilla, and vanilla is not trying to look in the mirror and say, hey, today I want to be more like chocolate ice cream. No, they are authentic, because this is what I have seen a lot. Very many women are trying to get more into masculine skills, or trying to show their authority in a way, because they feel that they are not heard or they're not listened to, and they transform. They are not authentic anymore. So this also comes, looking back to the mindset part, comes from our self-image. Can we stay authentic to our values and our identity, and choosing to show our power by staying authentic? And how can we see that in terms of gender balance? Because it's not a matter of comparing ourselves with each other. It's not a matter of comparing genders. It's a matter of finding the authenticity and the values that each of us bring to the table. And in order for us to choose differently, you already know, we have to ask better questions. And I would like to see now in the chat, because I have seen very many responses. I would like to check now to see what happens. Who said yes? 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1 and 2. Ice cream, I prefer all. I love this. Thank you so much for the interaction and for the answers. And chocolate, delicious. Vanilla, amazing. Chocolate and vanilla, perfection. This is the secret, collaboration, because it's not about competing. It's not about women competing against men. It's not about men being in competition with women. And we have seen that in the studies where men were saying that they feel threatened by women making decisions. It's a matter of changing the mindset so that we can work towards collaboration instead of competition. And I'm also referring here to collaboration between women as well, because this is also an issue that I have seen in very many cases. So it's a matter of collaboration between genders, but also among all human beings, because we don't need to compete against each other. We need to find ways to collaborate. How do we collaborate better? By asking better questions. Instead of trying to put someone else down, maybe ask, how can we work together? How can I support you? And again, this comes from a change of mindset and choosing to collaborate. It's a matter of choice, and to empower yourself and the people around you to collaborate, to be a team. And if there is something that I would like to leave you with today, is just to remember that the matter of choice comes from the change of our mindset, and these can lead to collaboration. Collaboration instead of competition between the genders. And how do we do this process? How do we accomplish this process? By asking better questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alexandra. We are already starting.
That was my intention, to make you think about ice cream now.
Okay, very insightful presentation. Thank you very much. We will follow our schedule and we will start the debate, and we will invite several special guests for our debate. You can see here the persons that are already joining us. So would be Dr. Maria Probulaki. She is senior consultant and representative of important company of Maritime Advisors. She is also a lecturer at the American College of Greece, Alba Graduate Business School. We are also inviting again Sanjam and Hamani, and we are also welcoming Mr. Adrian Mihalceu. He is the ITF inspector for Romania, and also a very dear friend of mine, Aisha Basak. She's a ship captain. She has been there on the sea. She has encountered a lot of issues that we were already talking about, and she was ambitious to do much more, and she created this very interesting platform, Seafarers. So I will soon close this agenda, and I will put the screen with all the participants, and I will kindly ask the 5 speakers from this list to turn on their cameras if they did not do it so far. And the debate question, main question, is the following: if you have a choice as a consumer, would you choose to boycott products delivered by unfair transport companies? And I would remind you, from the point of view of this session of discussion, the point of view of this conference, what is an unfair transport company considered? Of course, you can come with other opinions. You can complete the definition, or you can argue with our definition, but we acknowledge the best definition for a fair, respectively for an unfair transport company, is the following: that the transport company is that which is unfair is that company that had delivered some effort in order to implement policies of decent work, gender equality, safe and security policies, environmental, and also improved management of transport services. Okay.
So thank you. Can I join now?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you for the invitation and the very interesting presentations. And congratulations on this virtual conference. Very well organized, considering the conditions. Well, the term unfair has been very well described today. And the concept is very close to what we call social responsibility. Both concepts are quite wide, and there are numerous definitions. You can Google and find so many that you will get confused. But at this point, I'd like to define with you or explore the definition of consumers, because the question is asking that. So consumers in shipping are a blend of end users, like individuals, us, when we act as passengers, but also oil majors, governments, countries, international, national, private organizations and firms. So it's quite diverse. Now, we have been consuming transport, actually products transported by sea or produced with raw materials which have been transported by sea. And based on the statistics, a large number of them run open registries, flags of convenience. So for decades, we have been consuming as individuals this type of fair or unfair transport services. Now, end users are not always aware of the work conditions on board or other standards that are followed for the transportations. And often end users have their own interests. So one aspect is the access to reliable comparative data and non-technical information. Now, as for the safety, security, and environmental protection, the maritime industry is over-regulated already, and to a large extent, the tanker and offshore sectors have been in the forefront of promoting relevant quality management policies and systems. Now, these have been initiated by international bodies, the IMO, as well as the oil majors, in order to ensure that their role in the transportation process and the sector is somehow covered. So it is a matter of protecting own, of course, also collective interests, but I feel often it is a matter of showing a socially responsible and fair profile. Now, with special regards to the gender equality policies, which is a matter that the IMO recently put on top of the agenda, although there is imbalance in the labor market, in the maritime labor market for many, many years. I mean, having in mind just the case of Greece, which relates a lot to India and other countries, which is not the case like in some North European countries, for instance. So imbalance has been very obvious to many of us. Now, the thing is that I would be very careful in promoting affirmative policies, such as those that were implemented in the States, in the United States back in the 60s and 70s, that address racial and gender discrimination in the labor market. The thing is that these affirmative policies often create opposite reactions by employers and employees. So I would really stress the importance of promoting the change of mindset that was very well explained just a few minutes ago. And the change of mindset is required among all stakeholders in the maritime industry. Now, going back to the question, I feel it's a bit leading question because we would all answer that no, of course, but it is very important to have access to reliable information in order to do a proper market research, select fair transportation services, and the source of information, if we rely to the media, again, we need to be very careful because the media can easily manipulate the mass. And we've seen this in the past.
Maritime media are more reliable and knowledgeable, but again, cannot be easily interpreted by all end users. A final note is that boycottage is a term that can expand to activism if it is collectively organized. So there are many different parameters around this question, and my apology for focusing on the question rather than the answer, but I'm sure that the other speakers will have more to add on this. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. From the other panelists who would like to join?
Okay, Krishna, you hear me?
Yes.
You see me?
Sound and
That's
clear.
good. Yes, okay, thank you. So my name is Adrian, IT Inspector in Romania, as already you presented. Thank you very much for your invitation and for this very interesting online, let's say, all this kind of discussion and everything. So first of all, I want to say that Despina say very clear that supporting crew changing is very, very important that place. Also, Christy see the panel of the economy in this kind of crisis system. Ovidiu already give us a lot of information about the ILO and the tripartite committee, the benefits of that, and what means the dialogue in the sector. Also, Hamani, it's I just say hello again to Hamani to a little bit about the ITF and about the objectives and campaign. And also, of course, the rest of the participants. What I have to say is that on this fair transport, the EXA and ETF on the European level has to be together and to agree to approach fair transport and fair trade international. And that's it's already done through the social dialogue on the maritime transport sector in European level. And also, I want to point it out that it was research in Sweden regarding fair transport, and quite large numbers of citizens from Sweden asked about the possibility to regarding the coffee, that was a subject, coffee price, and that if they agreed to increase with 80 cents per kilo for coffee, if they know that this coffee is coming with the ships, with good regulation on board, and with the happy seafarers, and with all rights respected there. And the surprise was that 61% from the respondents said yes, which is very important. 31 said no, and then the rest of 8% was something not quite between the two answers, yes or no. So what show that? It's that the European level, let's say, because this research has to be everywhere, and we discuss every time regarding the rights and responsibilities on board of the vessel and rights of seafarers, and the let's say all the intervention and the organization has to cover the sector, because it's the most sector where the people are there's a lack of the a lot of services ashore. Let's imagine that we have away from United States to Europe, for example, for 2 or 3 weeks, which is nothing happened, just a ship and the people on board. And that is the isolation. It's a problem there. And then for this reason, need to have a regulation. Also, the ships are very dangerous for the environment if something happens. And we had in the past a lot of experience regarding the huge damages made for the accidents and marine peril or something. So that is very, very important to have fair transport, to have ship owners which act on the normal regulation. The vessels has to be good coverage by the agreements and the rights of the people, and the people to be in a lot of knowledge. And we just recently, I think we had promoted EU project Skill C, which is a very interesting program for the maritime universities and the schools on the European level. So this has to be changing for the future students. So we have a lot of things regarding fair transport. I have to say that on last year, on March 27, was a very huge demonstration in Brussels regarding fair transport, which was I think part of this demonstration. All the unions in all Europe in all kinds of transports. So that's give us a lot of alarms that on the transport sector, even in Europe, but internationally, has to be respected, and also to have some code encouraging the women in the transport, because gender is a good subject all the time. We need women in transport. I know that also your Sanjam let us know that it's clear the women are so few in the sector, and we need more employment and to encourage women to be in the sector. Also, the youth are the category which the young workers are the category which are most vulnerable. If they have no experience with the problem, they may encourage regarding living and working conditions and personal responsibilities on board the vessels, and how overcome them. These subjects are normally must be discussed in collaboration between the unions, in maritime unions, and the universities or schools, maritime schools. And I think this is the key to have the youngest and also the young women, female in the transport. We have to encourage them and to show them more than the school can show to the students how to do on board of the vessel. And also I want, because I'm an ITF inspector, I'm also in the front line together with my colleagues in all the countries to face this global crisis and regarding COVID with this coronavirus 19. So we want to draw the attention to all international institutions, to all international organizations, to all the governments, that seafarers are in the main front, just in the front line, yeah, to fight with COVID, with this coronavirus 19, and because they keep the supply chain alive and keep the materials, urgency materials, sanitary materials, food on our tables, more than from 90% from what it's done now, and also keep the whole economy, global economy, alive above the line or in the line. So for this reason, we need to have the crew change, to have the safety transport for the seafarers from the ship home and from home to the ship very, very urgently based. So we just trying to keep all these labor markets in let's say on duty now, which is a terrible time. We know that there are 2 months, 3 months, 4 months delay the agreements, delay the repatriation of the crew. The people are starving on board. The people has a problem. The people has no medical sure advice, or they are invited to reach a hospital. They have barriers on that, and the people need medical assistance. Need medical assistance on shore. Need a doctor. Need to see a doctor, and because this all kind of the border closes and suspended flights and the procedures and barriers put by the countries, they are in lack of these services and with these needs. So that is the situation. There are many things to say. It's a very huge sector and discussion regarding fair transport. In fact, fair transport, we want more than discuss here. We want to have fair transport also from production, from where is coming the goods. So to be sure that the people which do that, which made that goods, are well treated, are well paid, the social welfare, it's okay with them and with their families. So it's a very deep discussion regarding fair transport, and I think in the future we have to develop that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Michalceviu. I have two remarks, very quick remarks. First, totally agree with the implication of youth. Therefore, I will invite Aisha, if she is with us, to say some words about her impact with the seafarers. And second was something related to the pandemics. Indeed, it's something affecting us all, but I'm very optimistic in this situation. Every time after a crisis, something good will happen. So I think we will learn a lot from this type of things. And in the end, related to your idea, Mr. Michalceviu, very good idea about fair producers. Today is the International Fair Trade Day. Fair trade is a concept evolved from those producers in low development countries, especially in coffee, banana, and other kind of this type of cargo. And there is this institution, Fair Trade Organization, and the impact of this institution is that it's trying to establish some benchmarking in the case of those companies that comply with the fair trade idea. Okay, thank you. So Aisha, are you with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay, yes, great.
Okay, so great. First of all, have a nice weekend, you all. I'm the port captain of Midship Group. Just I want to represent myself, Christina. I'm the port captain of Midship Group and a board member of Turkish Chamber of Marine Engineers. And we have set up a mentorship platform for women seafarers and women in maritime, in Turkish maritime industry. But it is not limited for the only Turkish maritime industry. And we have also mentors and mentees from all around the world. And the impact is amazing. Just I would like to add something, Christina, about this maritime fair trade. I believe that the corporate social responsibility will be very important within 10 years. And because the Sustainable Development Goals of United Nations and mention all the things about environment and gender equality and all the details about maritime fair trade. And I think that this will be very important. And yes, I know that the private maritime companies, especially, they are not aware of this, and because this means that money and for them, and so that's why they are not aware of applying this kind of social responsibility details. But I believe that the near future it will change, because the generation is changing, and now the maritime professionals and are entering into maritime industry, and who were born in millennium and 2000, and so the generation is changing. And the new generation, you remember from Greta Thunberg, and so she is a climate activist, and I think that here we need a maritime activist, and about just attracting the young generation to here. And my opinion is about the fair trade is like that, because the trade is always for having the big lots of cargoes like 30,000, and for example, when think about the VLCC and the vessels carrying much more cargoes than we think, and this is the as Adrian and as Maria said, and this is the problem of end user, and the people in the world, they are not aware of the importance of maritime industry, and we see this during COVID times very carefully. And IMO published that the maritime workers, as they are key workers, essential workers, but nobody is aware of that. And because there are only 1.5 million seafarers around the world, and but the other people around the world, and they are not aware of and how the importance of carrying goods by sea transport. But we know that 90% of transport is carried by the sea, and so we just don't know, and we are not aware of the importance of sea. Just I would like to add this. And so my area.
Please tell us in brief about your platform. What is the impact of your platform in this gender?
Yeah. I will share my presentation, by the way. Just let me check how can I share it. Yes, share screen. So can you see my presentation?
Yes, but please, Aisha, very brief, because we are already
it's mm-hmm. Okay. So we set up a mentorship platform for women seafarers, and we have totally 80 members. And in Turkey, we have been the main supporter and main broadcast of I Am On Board with Gender Equality. You know, the last year was the indicated by the IMO that the gender equality year. And so we have started a campaign in Turkey, and as Chamber of Marine Engineers, and set up a new mentorship platform. We just believe that the woman is a mother and a daughter and a part of a family, and so she can do anything else. But the main problem is that we can't just find some role models, and we are having some problems during conducting our job, performing our job, but we just can't find some solutions, and we need to find some leaders, and we are just matching the leaders, maritime leaders, especially who are working on board, but we would like to make it with mentors, she mentors and he mentors together. And we are just, because it is just unconscious bias. We talked about unconscious bias. And if we have, and totally we have 30% of he mentors, and who are supporting the development career of women in Turkish maritime industry. And this is a very huge amount that, and they are really believing that the gender equality in their companies, and they are being part of the development of women seafarers, especially for onboard jobs and the jobs and who are working in the work field, especially in ports and shipyards. And also we are, you know, Christina, you are our partner for the EU project, and we have applied for a partner funding for European Union and for seafarers empowering women at sea and maritime work field. And hopefully we will have a feedback. We just hope for it, fingers crossed. And so we are, what are we doing right now? We are visiting primary schools, we are visiting high schools, and as role models of maritime sector, and just to making an awareness of women seafarers, and especially for the maritime job, because it is very important that they don't know about maritime, and they don't know that how a woman captain to be. And so when the students see that a role model there, and they are becoming so attractive about maritime job. And so this is the other goal of our project. And so what we believe is the social media, and we are everywhere, and we are sharing all the stories of female seafarers and also the maritime leaders all around the world, and with our Instagram account. And what we did actually, and this is the end, and we believe that we are better together, and we designated a motto. And it's just a short thing. I will show you something, by the way. And we have set up, you know, we are talking about attracting the young generation. And we have set up a YouTube channel and about seafarers platform. And we are sharing the stories. And on 8th March, we had an event, and which was on board. It was a special event that we do every year, and for International Women's Day. And these are the feedbacks from our mentees, and they are really young students, maritime students, and we are having lots of great feedbacks from them, because they see that, okay, I believe myself more, and I just have more self-confidence and conducting my maritime job now. And so this is just, you can visit our YouTube channel, and it's just like that. We believe in the young generation right now, and so we just focus on attracting them. And so this is all, and thank you, Christina, and for her inviting me, and believing that, and having the also partnership with our association here in Turkey.
Aisha, thank you very much. We love your energy. Good. Now let's switch a bit the perspective, and we would need now a perspective from an owner of a shipping company. So Sanjam, if you are with us, can you tell us your perspective from the other side?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think a lot has been covered by the other panelists, and I just have a few points to add. One is, again, as was said, the lack of data. How do the end consumers, how do the customers know which company is engaging in fair practices or not? This data is not readily available, and especially when it regards to gender-related data. In this regard, last year, we tied up with the SHE Index of Norway, which the same tool was used to conduct our survey. And it is our intention, it's a great tool called the SHE Index. It measures company in how friendly their policies are towards gender. So it actually ranks companies in that order. And we want to get that index to India, and we want to take it global. I think it will be a brilliant tool, so that when companies are obliged to publish their financials and their figures, they would also have to publish data on their gender policy and how well they're actually doing in implementing those policies. So I think that's a great tool. I think what happens here, my experience has been, is that customers don't have data, and therefore companies, shipping companies, they like to cut corners because they're not doing well. When there is a crisis is hitting, they're going to cut corners, and the first corner to cut is going to be, are going to be these things. But there are companies who also insist on having a gender balance. Like, for example, when IKEA was opening a tender and they were inviting shipping companies to go and meet them, they actually told one of the big companies in India that of the 2 people you're sending to meet us, if one of them is not a woman, just don't send anybody. And I think it's when the consumer should put down and say, you know what, we're only going to view business if you're going to be gender neutral, if you're going to have a gender balance, if you're going to be environmentally friendly. I think that is the key, because I think themselves, I don't see that happening. So it has to start with the end consumer demanding a fair trade practice with regards to environment and with regards to gender.
Okay, thank you very much. Hamani,
Yes.
can you
help
us to conclude all these brilliant ideas and remarks?
Yeah, thank you very much, Christina. I think talking about fairness or fair trade, fair transport in the maritime sector is, in my opinion, a bit utopic, because we have more than 50,000 vessels trading and carrying, like most of the panelists said, more than 90% of the world goods. So, but more than 2/3 of these vessels are under FOC, flag of convenience. And flag of convenience is or are per essence or per se unfair, because the motivation of a ship owner to choose a flag of convenience is to avoid taxes, is also to have the possibility to choose low labor. These are the fundamental for unfair transport. If we want to fight or to change the situation, to fight social dumping, we have to come back to ask those companies, and we know them, to ask those companies to change the system. Either they will come back and register under national flags where everything is regulated, where they will be obliged to respect the national regulations, or they will also comply with the international regulations to better the working and living conditions of the seafarers. Because in this situation, we cannot speak about fair transport if we cannot better the living and working condition of the seafarers. My colleague, Andrian, had clearly said or mentioned some problems seafarers are actually having. This is due to the fact that the ship owners are all just interested in winning and just exploiting the seafarers. And if this exploitation is not stopped, there is no way we can speak about fair transport. If I have the choice, to buy goods transported by a fair company, I will go for that. And if everybody can have also the choice, I think more than 80% of us will just choose to go for goods transported by fair companies. But we don't have this possibility right now, and that's why we have to put a pressure on the companies to better the working and living condition of the seafarers. Thank you.
Thank you also. Now, if you have questions for our speakers, you are welcome to ask them anything. I know it's a bit 16 minutes past 11, but I'm really happy we did not got bored, and we had such interesting discussion. And I would really like to go
Just
on.
say one word,
Yes,
Christina.
please.
So I thank you to Hamani for what he explained very well and clear. And I would like to complete that the fair trade on this maritime sector, let's say, will be well implemented if the seafarers will be well organized. If all the seafarers has to be in a form of organization, which have to find not individual, but together with the others in a experience of solidarity, together youths with the experiment with the experts and with the hello.
We can hear you. Yes.
Okay, so this kind of organizations, which is a seafarers organization, and the people which have to be in this organization, is better to increase the democracy on board of the vessel, to increase the respecting the rights, and to increase the to decrease the abuses, the bullying and harassment on board, and to explain in the organization for all the people what is done, what is necessary to be done, and what has to act in this field. And this is very, very important. The people, the seafarers, has to be organized, well organized, and then we will have well transport, because in this situation, if all the people are organized in our system, in the seafarers, then the ship owners has to respect the negotiation and to respect because it will be a very huge pressure against them until we will not have a good percentage of the organized of things, and we have to discuss and to fight a lot in the campaigns. We have the Black Sea campaign, for example, from many years. It's already continue at the union level, but we need to have a campaign to discourage the abuses on board the vessel. Thank you very much.
I would like to remind you about the first slide from my presentation. It was about the context where we are living in, and it is the industry 4.0. That means there are a lot of opportunities for technology, and I think technology and digitalization will help consumers to get more informed, and therefore would be some room for more information to the customer in order for the customer to have a choice. And in my last remark here, I perceive this gender issue as solutioned by the opportunity to have a choice in the case of female. So I believe female should be led to have their own choice. If they do choose sea career, they should be awarded that chance to stand there and do their professional tasks as accordingly. If she decides to leave seafaring and go on shore to take care of the family, again, it's their choice. But here, I think it's about equal choices. Just give everybody a chance, I think, in order to discover their own potential and also to do their best to perform their jobs as good as possible. Okay, if there is someone else that would like to add something or to ask.
I would like to say something there regarding the gender issue in seafaring. I think in those survey we have seen or we have heard about today, I am missing one question. For example, what can we do to make the seafaring job attractive for the women? Not only to know what are the problems, why the companies are not employing the women, female seafarers, but the whole seafaring job is getting down because the job is no more attractive. So if we want men, women, young people to be attracted by this jobs in maritime sector, or let's say by being seafarers, then what can we do? This is exactly the point. And if something is done to make the job attractive, then everybody, every gender will be interested to go now seafarer, because today people are just going getting the job because of the wages, just to sustain their family, but thereby they are being very, very exploited. And that's why you can go everywhere, look for people to be engaged, to be employed as seafarer. You will not find them because they are no more interested. It's no more attractive. This is my point of view regarding that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all your input. Last call for the public attendees outside the speakers. If there is someone that would like to join and say some words. So now you have the chance, you are online, everybody will see you. I will put the recording on YouTube. Okay, Despina, would you like to help me close this conference? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to congratulate you all and thank you very much. This has been a very, very interesting conference that although it had one connecting topic, it touched upon many different issues that we're facing today. I think what we can take away from today's discussion is the fact that within the shipping industry, there's still a lot that we need to do to reach the goal of fair transport. But I think it's very encouraging that we have so many people around the world and so many organizations that subscribe to this idea and are willing to work hard and collaborate towards this goal. Thank you very much. This has been very informative and very inspiring.
Okay, thank you all. So we conclude with the words collaboration in our mind and complementarity and also fair transport social movement. Before ending this very nice conference, I would like to remind you that that Ms. Mihaela Scrieciu, the President of WISTA Romania, has mentioned about our next event that will be in September, starting with 3 September 2020. We are doing Smart Transport Summit. It is a large event and there is a large organizing committee there. In fact, it is a network of several institutions and organizations, and we want to invite both academia but also industry, and more than that, we want to invite the political side, because okay, we are academia, we are doing research, we are helping the industry with statistics. Also, the industry is doing the core action in the domain, but if we don't have some regulations and some guidelines, some pathway from the regulators, then our efforts will not be concentrated towards efficiency. Okay, thank you very much. You have some contacts in the chat, and I will let you know the link for the YouTube presentation, and just stay safe, stay home and learn. Okay, bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.